For centuries, the gods of an ancient civilization had slumbered beneath the earth, their names lost to history, their power scattered like dust. Legends whispered of their return, but few took them seriously. It wasn't until the sky darkened and strange storms began to sweep across the world that the first signs of their awakening appeared. In a remote village, a young archaeologist named Aria discovered a forgotten temple buried deep within the mountains. The stone walls were covered in cryptic symbols, and in the center of the temple lay a massive stone tablet, glowing faintly. Aria's heart raced as she deciphered the ancient inscription, realizing that she had found the key to unlocking an unimaginable power. The gods were returning, and with their return would come a reckoning that could reshape the world. As Aria examined the tablet, her mind raced with the possibilities. The gods were not just beings of legend, they were real, and their return was imminent. The prophecy carved into the stone described how each god would awaken in response to a global calamity, a disaster that would set the stage for their rise. "The world is not ready," Aria whispered to herself as she realized the gravity of the situation. She tried to warn the authorities, but no one believed her. They thought she was simply an overzealous archaeologist looking for fame. But then, the storms grew stronger. Volcanoes erupted and earthquakes shook cities. Across the globe, strange phenomena began to occur. The ocean tides shifted unnaturally, and ancient sites that had been hidden for millennia started to reveal themselves. The world was on the brink of chaos, and Aria knew that she was the only one who could stop the gods from taking full control. Aria's discovery was just the beginning. Soon, a figure appeared in the sky, a being made entirely of lightning and fire. He descended from the heavens, his eyes burning with ancient rage. The first god, Zorath, god of storms, had awoken. His presence was overwhelming. The earth trembled as he landed, his voice like thunder itself. "I have waited millennia for this moment," Zorath declared, his voice echoing through the sky. "The time of humans is over. The time of gods has returned." People ran in fear as Zorath's power caused destruction wherever he walked. Mountains crumbled, and cities were wiped from the map as the storm god unleashed his fury. Aria, standing at the edge of the ruins, could hardly believe what she was seeing. She had thought the gods would bring peace, but now it seemed clear that their return would come at a devastating cost. As Zorath's reign of terror spread across the world, Aria found herself being approached by a secret group known only as the Guardians. They had been protecting the knowledge of the ancient gods for generations, waiting for the prophecy to unfold. The Guardians revealed that Zorath was only the first of many gods to awaken, and each one would bring destruction in their wake. The group had been preparing for this day, but they were vastly outnumbered. They needed someone with Aria's knowledge to help them understand the gods' weaknesses and how to stop them. Aria joined the Guardians, and together, they began their search for the ancient artifacts said to hold the power to defeat the gods. These artifacts were scattered across the world, hidden in forgotten places, each one tied to the elemental forces the gods controlled. The search was dangerous, but Aria knew that it was their only hope. She had to find a way to stop the gods before they wiped humanity from the earth. As Aria and the Guardians ventured into the desert to search for the second artifact, they felt the ground shake beneath them. The air grew thick with tension, and the sky darkened once more. A shadow emerged from the sand, rising higher and higher until it took the form of a colossal figure. It was Anubis, the god of death and the afterlife. His presence was chilling, and his eyes burned with a cold fire. With a wave of his hand, the earth cracked open, releasing a flood of spirits from the underworld. "Your time has ended," Anubis declared, his voice as cold as the grave. "The gods are here to reclaim what was taken from us." Aria and the Guardians fought back, but Anubis's power was far beyond anything they had ever encountered. His control over death was absolute, and every strike they made seemed to vanish into the void. As the battle raged on, Aria realized that the only way to defeat the gods was to use their own power against them. But how could they possibly fight forces so ancient and vast? As Anubis's form disappeared into the horizon, Aria felt a chilling realization settle in her bones. The gods weren't just forces of nature, they were predators, intent on wiping out everything that stood in their way. Every corner of the world felt like a battleground now, and Aria knew that she had to act fast. The Guardians had managed to gather a small but dedicated army of rebels, those who had lost everything to the gods' return. These fighters were determined to protect the remnants of the world from the destruction the gods had unleashed. But the question remained, how could they defeat gods who had reigned for millennia? Aria found herself standing before a massive stone table in the Guardians' secret underground base. Maps of ancient sites, old texts, and clues to the gods' weaknesses were spread out before her. She looked at each artifact they had found so far, hoping that one of them could turn the tide. "We need the artifact from the Temple of Fire," Aria said, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside her. "It's the only one left that can help us." The Guardians nodded in agreement. "We'll need to move quickly," one of them said, glancing nervously at the walls. "The gods are watching." The Temple of Fire was located deep in the volcanic mountains to the south. The journey was perilous, with constant eruptions and the threat of fiery creatures lurking in the shadows. But Aria and the Guardians had no choice. The artifact they sought was said to hold the key to unlocking a god's true weakness, and without it, they stood no chance. As they trekked through the treacherous landscape, the air grew thick with smoke. The mountains seemed to rumble beneath their feet, as if they, too, were aware of the battle that was about to unfold. Finally, they reached the temple. The massive doors were adorned with intricate carvings of flames and creatures long forgotten. With bated breath, Aria placed her hand on the door, feeling the heat radiate through the stone. As if recognizing her touch, the doors creaked open. Inside, the temple was bathed in a dim red light. The floor was covered in ashes, and in the center of the room stood an altar with an artifact that glowed with an intense, fiery energy. As Aria stepped forward to claim the artifact, the air around her grew colder. The flames within the room flickered erratically, and the ground began to shake. A voice, deep and commanding, echoed through the temple. "You dare to take what belongs to me?" It was Zorath, the storm god. His voice was a low growl, filled with power. From the shadows, a figure materialized, his eyes crackling with electricity. "You thought you could defeat me," Zorath continued, "but I am the storm. I am the very force that shapes this world." Aria's heart raced as she raised the artifact. The fiery energy swirled around her, responding to her will. "We're not here to defeat you," she said. "We're here to stop the destruction you've caused." But Zorath was not impressed. With a snap of his fingers, a violent storm erupted in the temple. The walls shook, and the flames went out, plunging them into darkness. The storm raged as Aria and the Guardians struggled to maintain their footing. Zoratha's form blurred through the chaos, appearing like a living tempest. His power was too much. Every time they tried to strike, the storm swallowed their efforts. But then, the artifact in Aria's hands began to pulse with an energy of its own. She focused all of her will on it, and the flames inside began to burn brighter. With a cry of determination, she thrust the artifact into the air, its fiery glow lighting up the entire temple. Zorath faltered. The storm began to dissipate, and the power that had once filled the temple started to wane. The artifact was the key to his weakness. Fire was the one force that could temper his chaos. "You cannot fight nature," Zorath hissed, his form flickering. But it was too late. The flames surged, surrounding the storm god and weakening his power. With one final, powerful blow, the artifact shattered Zoratha's form. He howled as his essence was consumed by the flames, and with that, he was gone. The storm had passed, and the temple fell silent. Aria and the Guardians stood in the aftermath, breathing heavily but victorious. The artifact that had helped defeat Zorath was now destroyed, but its power had been enough to protect them from the storm god's wrath. But they knew this was only the beginning. Anubis, the god of death, was still out there, and the other gods would soon follow. The battle was far from over. As Aria stood by the altar, looking out at the horizon, she realized that her journey was just starting. The gods were powerful, but the people who fought to protect the world were even stronger. "We will stop them," she said quietly, her voice full of determination. "No matter what it takes." And with that, she and the Guardians set out once more, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead.